All right, how's everybody doing? This is the Comic Samurai. I want to welcome you to my next video. And tonight we're going to be doing another Let's Rank challenge. This is where we look at a run on a series and assign every cover a letter grade from A to F. And we pick our favorite and award it that special S tier ranking. And tonight we're going to be looking at John Byrne's epic run on the Fantastic Four. So let's go ahead and jump right in. First up, we got this issue number 232. Now, John Byrne had done some writing and some art, but in a pretty minor way earlier. But this was the issue that marked his takeover on the title. He changed the look, he changed the mythos, and he introduced himself with this cover. What a great one, with the image of the Fantastic Four there, and that Diablo villain in the background. I love the colors. This was a great way to kick it off, and it gets an easy A. Now, he made his debut in 1981, and he did, I think, 61 consecutive covers, and we're going to take a look at all of them tonight. Next up, we got issue number 233, and I loved his second cover here. If you're going to spotlight one of the Fantastic Four, the one with the most dynamic look is definitely the Human Torch, and he gets his own spotlight here. I like this one. I like the colors. It works. I'm giving this one a B. Next up, we got issue number 234. Now, this one was a bit of a letdown for me. You've got the silhouette of this character and some type there, and you've got this orange background with just the yellow figures of the Fantastic Four. This one didn't really work for me and meet my expectations. I'm giving this one a D. Next up, we got issue number 235, and I like this one. That planet-sized villain of Ego or whatever, and he's shooting his rays at the Fantastic Four. They're caught in the blast there. I like the color. I like the layout of this one. It's lacking something, too much white space there. I do like it, but it only gets a B from me. All right, next up we got issue number 236, and John Byrne tried his hand at a George Perez-like multi-character cover here. Look at all the figures there, kind of an anniversary issue celebrating the Fantastic Four's legacy here. I love it. Everything about this one. If you're going to do a group shot, do it like this. John Byrne could teach a master class on how to do it, and this one's getting an easy A. Next up, we got issue number 237. Now, this one reintroduced Alicia Master's father, the Puppet Master, I think, and he's got his visage back there and this hypnotizing loops and circles. I like this one. It's a bit of an experiment, but it was lacking something. It didn't hit on all cylinders for me. I don't like that big masthead up there. I hated when Marvel did that. It is a sign of the times, though, and anytime I see a comic book with that banner, I know what era it's from. But this one's just getting a C from me. Next up, we got issue number 238. And this one features Dr. Doom on the cover there, but he's holding a sign, and there's kind of a joke or some humor, but it falls pretty flat. John Byrne draws himself on the cover there with the Fantastic Four behind him. This one broke the mood for me, and I'm just giving this one a D. All right, next up we got issue number 239. This one featured that Frankie Ray as the new Nova here, and she's making her debut. And if you're going to introduce a new character, do it like this. They brought the Thing back to kind of his clumpy earlier form there. I do like the colors on this one. That banner again up top. I'm sorry, but it keeps it from being an A level, and this one gets a B. Next up, we got issue number 240, and I love this one. John Byrne introduced his version of the Inhumans there, and that was my take on the Inhumans. I loved his grasp of those characters here. And you've got Black Bolt levitating all these buildings, that architecture that John Byrne had to design. The colors in it, I think this is so underrated of a cover. I'm giving this one an A. I love it. If you get a chance, that's one you can pick up for relatively cheap, and it's beautiful. Next up, we got issue number 241. And on this one, you know what I'm going to say. It suffers from that Fantastic Four number 50 syndrome where they give it a brown background or a tan background. But this one, that yellow hand, it clashes. The colors don't work. It's not a very great shot of the Fantastic Four. And I do love hand covers, but this one doesn't work for me. I'm giving this one a D. Next up, we got issue number 242. Now, I did like this one where John Byrne introduced Terrax. I love that character, the Herald of Galacticus. They're so powerful. And I love how Mr. Fantastic is being bent around there. All the Fantastic Four. There's some floating heads down here of other characters that are going to make guest appearances. This is a beautiful cover. I'm giving this one an A. Next up, we got issue number 243, and this is a classic. It's a Galactus cover here, and John Byrne defined the look of Galactus for me here. When I think of Galactus, I think of this character. However, this was kind of my first early introduction to that character, and I misread it as a young boy, and I thought it was Galacticus. So it's very hard for me to say Galactus without mispronouncing his name. This is a great cover. I don't have to say much more about it. It's an instant icon. This one's an easy A. Next up, we got issue number 244, and this is another great one that features a hand, and John Byrne had such a knack for drawing good hand covers here. Nova in the grip of Galactus, the fire, the light, the color. I love this one. It's another easy A. Next up, we got issue number 245, and this one features the Invisible Woman here on the cover, and I'd never like to see a female character battered and beaten there, and it's such a trope in comic books, and I just don't like it. She's reaching for help or something there, and there's some text, and her clothes are shredded. And this is just a pretty mediocre cover for me, and I'm giving it a C. All right, next up we got issue number 246. Now we bring Dr. Doom back into the mix, and he's right in the middle there. We've got all the characters falling to certain things there. I love that kind of cover, and John Byrne was great at it. This is a good Doom cover. I'm giving it a B. All right, next up we got issue number 247, and this one, it's one of my favorite Dr. Doom covers here. That huge looming image of Doom over the Fantastic Four, and it's just such a powerful image there. Byrne has a knack for making these great introductions, and just a bam, you got to open it and read it. This one's an easy A. All right, top heavy there. Next up we got number 248. This one's got a great eyeball on the cover here. Look at that pink eye. Gazing upon the scene here, we've got Black Bolt there, the Fantastic Four. This is a fun one. I like the colors. I like the layout of it. This one's getting a B from me. Next up, we got issue number 249. And Gladiator makes his appearance here. He's one of the Shi'ar Empire's main figures, and he's holding up the thing there. All the Fantastic Four are falling. Look at how Mr. Fantastic looks like just a piece of rubber that's draped over his hand. This is a great cover. It's one of my favorites, and I'm giving this one an A. All right, we're going to have to start a second row of A's. Oh, those are all so good. Next up, we got issue number 250, and I love this cover. I think this one's so underrated. I hate the fact that it's just Skrulls impersonating the other heroes, but until you knew that, you thought, oh, it's going to be a great battle royale of all these other teams up against the Fantastic Four. But it is Skrulls, and for that reason, so that one's getting a B. Next up, we got issue number 251. Now, something about the coloring on this one, I did not like the palette that they chose in the background, but maybe that was on purpose. However, it doesn't gain any points. I wish they'd have used something other than that kind of bland pinkish and purple, but it's a good cover. I like the perspective, how the thing was drawn there. This is a pretty good one, and I'm giving it a B. Next up, we got issue number 252, and this was the infamous Sideways issue, horizontal cover. And it's kind of like that Amazing Spider-Man that introduced the Hobgoblin. It came with a free tattoo, and those are a lot of fun. And they're hard to find, this copy, with the tattoos included, because people cut it out to put in their Amazing Spider-Man to retain the value. But this is a great cover. I love the Sideways. I love this issue. It's so fun to read. This is underrated. If you can find it, it doesn't matter if it has a tattoo or not, in my opinion. But I'm giving this one an A. Love that Sideways cover. Next up, we got issue number 253. And this one was a bit white for my taste. Something about it didn't hit. Now, this kind of looked like a certain villain that you were going to know, but he's kind of nameless and forgettable there. These floating heads. This one was pretty average for John Byrne, and I'm giving it a C. Next up, we got issue number 254, and again, this villain that they tried to introduce as a hovering figure there didn't really work. It's pretty forgettable. I don't remember exactly what the beef was with them, and there's a battle. It's pretty disappointing in this one. It is John Byrne and recognizable, and for that reason, it retains a C. Next up, we got 255, and this one, I wish they wouldn't have done the coloring like they did. That floating head of Mr. Fantastic just doesn't work, and I don't like fallen heroes here. The purple, they could have done so much more detail in the coloring, and the coloring on this one ruined it for me. I'm giving this one a C. Next up, we got issue number 256, and again, something about the color here. I don't know what they did during this time period, but I can recognize comics that came out in the mid-'80s, and they started going with these weird colors, and they just clashed. They didn't quite have it. I do like Annihilus, that villain that they introduced, but for some reason, I can't elevate this one above a C. Next up, we got issue number 257. Now, here we go. We got a great halvesy cover where you got Galactus on one side and a skull or death on the other. You've got Nova there, the Fantastic Four, floating heads. I like this one. It's a return to greatness, and I'm giving it an A. Next up, we got issue number 258. Now, this one does not work for me. I love the idea of it. It's such a great idea, that Gauntlet of Doom, ripping through the cover there, but somehow the reflection was a little too muddled. I wish they would have made it clear. and the image behind it doesn't work. This is when it started to go downhill for me. I was like, wait, this one didn't hit for me like it should have, and I'm just giving this one a C. All right, next up we got 259, and this one's okay, but that pink background there, it just clashed. I don't really exactly remember who this was supposed to be. I love the hands of Doom holding all the characters there, but that pink wash in the background just clashed with Doom's image. This wasn't one of my favorites, and again, I'm just giving it a C. All right, next up we got issue number 260 here, and this one featured the Invisible Woman reaching for the mask of Doom, smoking there in the foreground. We got the Thing and Johnny in the background there, the green wash, the purple foreground. Man, I want to like this one, but again, something about it's lacking. Oh, the pink in the thumbnail there. I can't do anything better than a C on that one. Issue number 261 is next, and I really did like this one. The image of the Watcher there, and it was neat to see John Byrne's take on all these characters that Stan Lee and Jack Kirby created together. So I love to see John Byrne and his take on the mythos there. This is a pretty interesting cover. I like most things about it, and I'm giving this one a B. Next up, we got issue number 262, and this one put Reed Richards on trial there, and he's in shackles, bound on the cover there. All these red figures in the background there. I think they could have done something a little more interesting than just red on all those faces, but I do like how they were drawn. John Byrne, this is classic. He still got it on this one, and it gets a B from me. Next up, we got issue number 263, and this one features the Thing. He gets his own splash page on the cover here. John Byrne flames. He's yelling for the Human Torch there, digging for him. You can feel the frustration and the desperation that he's experiencing. I like most things about this one. This one's getting a B. It is a dynamic image. Next up, we got issue number 264, and this is an homage to Fantastic Four #1. This is John Byrne's take on that iconic image. You've got that huge monster attacking the Fantastic Four. It's a callback, but I can feel that Kirbiness to it. It was just a little bit static. Something about it didn't quite do it for me, and I'm giving this one a B. Now, it is a strong B, though. B+, let's call it that. Next up, we got 265 here, and this is the introduction of, spoiler alert, the She-Hulk in the Fantastic Four. And I felt she brought something to that family that they needed, a little bit of heart that Ben was starting to lack. He was always full of so much self-doubt that when Jennifer Walters came in here, I liked it. And look at how smug the Human Torch is there. Like, ooh, I don't mind the She-Hulk being on this team. This is a great cover. I'm giving this one a B. All right, next up, we got issue number 266. And the villain on this one, I never like it when their identity is kept secret. And the Invisible Woman, her clothes are in tatters there. It's such a cliche, and John Byrne really likes that. He likes his females kind of in vulnerable positions. And to appeal to that cheesecake factor, yeah, this one's just getting a C from me. All right, next up we got issue number 267, and this one did work for me. I like Reed Richards getting pulled by all the arms of Dr. Octopus on here. And I love the introduction when you get a villain that's not usually associated with the Fantastic Four, like Doc Ock, brought into the mix here. And this one's a good cover. I'm giving it a B. Oh, we're getting top heavy here. Next up, we got issue number 268. And I'm going to show this one first. This is the direct market one, and it did make a difference to me. I like that image there better than the image of the UPC symbol there. This is one cover, one of the rarities, where it makes a difference. And I do prefer the direct market. But you can tell it's a rubber mask. It's a photograph. It's always a fun one, though. It's a great story inside. I'm giving this one a very strong B. All right, where are we at? We're going to have to go with, we're tripling up on our Bs. Next up, we got number 269, and this one kind of fell flat for me. It's hard to make out the little character right in the middle there, a lot of background. This one felt like John Byrne was rushed, and I can't do anything better than a D on that one. No Fs yet. That's amazing. Next up, we got issue number 270, and there's a lot of great things that I like about this one. I think the pencils and the inks, I would have given it an A or a B, but because of the coloring on this one, you know what I'm going to say, but I hate a big pink cover, and that yellow didn't help any either. If they'd used blue, I would have been a little more forgiving, but this one, because of the coloring on it, I can only give it a D. Next up, we got issue number 271, and it seems like they just did a big monster cover, that homage to Fantastic Four #1. So when they did this again, it's like they can always be big looming monsters there, and I know it's a callback, but it didn't really work for me. I'm giving this one a C. I do like it, though. I like it better than the ones in the D level. Next up, we got issue number 272, and this one I did not like. I don't know what it was about these cowboys that were on mechanical horses, and you can't see their faces there, and it's like cowboys, they're supposed to be a threat to the Fantastic Four. They do cosmic battles, these huge, epic, crossover, operatic type stories, and this just seemed like it was a whimper for me. I'm giving this one a D. Next up, we got issue number 273, and this is the comic that kind of reintroduced Reed Richards' father back into the story, and it was a miss for me. This is when the inking style started to change, and the look of John Byrne's work on this series started to go downhill, in my opinion. I didn't care for this much. I thought, ooh, maybe he can pull it out, and I'm giving this one a D. Next up, we got issue number 274, and it featured the Thing on the cover here, but something about the inks. I just didn't like this one. Usually I like when the character's bursting through the cover, and because I wanted to like it so much, and it didn't meet my expectations, it's hard for me not to give this one a fail. But I can still recognize it as a Byrne image, and I like most of his stuff, and it did carry that momentum over, so I'm giving this one a D. Next up, we got issue number 275, and John Byrne, I think, was starting to feel his oats a little bit and wanted to introduce some humor. And he makes kind of a sexist joke on the cover here, and in today's world, it falls a little flat. The She-Hulk looming over him, I do like just the images on it. I would give this one a B. But because of the tasteless humor on it, I'm sorry, but I'm giving this one a C. I still like the image, but I can't do any better than a C. All right, next up we got 276. Now, John Byrne knew how to do black and white covers, and I love this one. No other colors but black and white, and that's rare. He did a great job. I love how the text incorporated like that flashbulb, and the shadows are emanating from the center. This one's a great cover. I'm giving this one a very strong A. I love to be back in that A column. Next up we got number 277 here, and this was an interesting take on Mephisto. It was a halvesy cover, but I didn't really like what the images looked like when you covered them. I mean, Mephisto was a great villain for the Fantastic Four to fight, and this one's a good comic, but I can only give it a B. Something about it, John Byrne was just starting to lose his magic, like this number 278, where there's kind of an imposter Doom, like a young Doom or something, and they changed his look where he's not wearing a hood, and too much silhouette. This one felt so rushed for me. Man, I could tell that it was Byrne, but it was inked in a style that I did not like, and this one can only get a D from me. Next up, we got issue number 279, and again, I think Byrne was starting to get burnt out here. That's what sums up this era of Fantastic Four for me, is burnout. It just felt like he should have taken a month or two off and come back full force, because something is missing here, and I can only give that one a D. Next up, we got number 280, and it felt like this one, he regained some of his heart and soul here. Now, this introduced that story of the hate monger here, and it's a crucifixion cover, and those are rare, but I like when they incorporate type into a cover. This is John Byrne bringing back some of his excitement there, and I can give this one a pretty confident B. Next up, we got issue number 281. Now, this one I did like, except for the Invisible Woman's hair. It was that 1980s kind of mullet style. Something about it I didn't like. I always like to see a character as an evil version, and Byrne did a good job on that one. The inking is lacking. They never changed any of the line weights there. It just looked rushed. This is a Jerry Ordway assisted cover here, and I can feel his influence on it. But I do like that evil Invisible Woman, and I'm giving this one a B. Next up, we got issue number 282, and this is an infinity cover here. I love how the image is reduced to a final vanishing point there, way back on the horizon. I like all these characters, the coloring, even how the coloring got lighter gradually here. I can't believe that they don't do more images like this, because it catches your eye. I love this cover, and I'm giving it a very strong A. Next up, we got issue number 283 here, and something was missing on this one. I usually like a big, strong, central figure here, but the inking on it was lost. The coloring, this was John Byrne missing something. It was like a cog was starting to slip. I can't do anything better than a C on this one. All right, next up we got issue number 284, and this is John Byrne doing a bit of woman hating on here. You got She-Hulk getting stomped in the face with a boot. I just don't like the thought of that. I don't like the image of it. I realize that it's a battle and she's supposed to be the strength, and that means that they're being taken down by somebody, but I don't like that image on the cover here. This one falls flat for me. I'm giving it a D. Next up, we got issue number 285, and here's the Human Torch downtrodden here, and this, on a comic book cover, you want battles. You don't want the drama of like a soap opera. When they started getting into that, I mean, it was always part of the Fantastic Four, but it didn't really creep its way onto the covers until this one. And this just felt like a soap opera, and I can't give it anything better than a D. Next up, we got number 286, and I do like this one. It was the return of Jean Grey into the Marvel mythos after you thought she was dead in the X-Men. They reintroduced her here. I do like that kind of Christ-like figure on the front there. But it was lacking the energy that Jean Grey had in the X-Men. If you look at her images from John Byrne's run on the X-Men, it was far superior to this image, in my opinion, and I can only give this one a C. Next up, we got issue number 287, and I had to double check whether or not this was a John Byrne image. But this is where Joe Sinnott started helping out with the chores, and I do not like his take on the Fantastic Four, and this brings everything down for me. I don't like the colors, the layout, the look of this character here. There's no superheroes. Oh, this is a big time fail for me. I do not like that cover there at all. Nothing redeeming on that image. Next up, we got number 288, and again, we got the Beyonder here, and he was so overdone with the Secret Wars 2, the tie-ins, everything. The only thing that saves this one is that there's a pretty good image of Doom at the bottom there. I do like that image of Doom a lot, but the Beyonder, I was over it. This one can only get a C from me. All right, next up we got issue number 289, and there's this. If they're going to use a purple on the cover, use a bright, great purple. This looks like they mixed in a bunch of tan with it or something. Something doesn't pop on this cover for me. I never like to see my heroes defeated there. I do like the Human Torch, like the last man standing. This one's okay. I'm giving it a B. It's a pretty reluctant B, though. Let's call it a B minus. All right, only a few left here. We got issue number 290 here, and they tried a photograph in the background there, and it just screams laziness to me. I think that John Byrne was rushed on this one. He did a great job on this central figure here of Annihilus. You got those floating heads of the other members of the Fantastic Four. I'd love to give this one an A, but the background didn't work for me, and I'm giving it a B. All right, next up we got issue number 291, and again, something has always been wonky in the backgrounds on this one. I don't know what it was, but I know they tried to do an homage to Action Comics number 1 here, and it's She-Hulk holding a car and people yelling in the foreground there. It's a callback to that, but I was never a fan of Action Comics number 1 to begin with. I know it's not a popular opinion to have, but I'm just not, and I don't think this was a very good homage to it. I can only give this one a C. All right, last one, we got issue number 292. John Byrne drew a great Nick Fury with his eye patch on the cover there and Hitler on the cover there. Now, some people like those Hitler or swastika Nazi covers there, and I can give or take them, but I do like seeing the Fantastic Four take down the greatest villain the world has ever known. This one's a great cover. Oh, it does have that Nazi salute on the cover, and that's pretty controversial to see right there, front and center on the cover. He went out with a bang on this one, and I'll give him a B. All right, well, that's all of them ranked, so let's go ahead and take a look at the ones in the A tier and pick our favorite. All right, so I removed all the comics from the B tier, and I put all the ones in the A comics on these first two rows so we could get a good look at them. We've got this Dr. Doom one, all these great Byrne images, Galactus, the Infinity, black and white, the sideways cover. Oh, I like the Gladiator there, his first one. Oh, that group shot. I got to say, it's going to be between this one and this one. Those two are my favorites there. We got issue number 236 and issue number 243 here. And if I had to pick one, I got to say, they both have white backgrounds. That's interesting. But if I had to pick a favorite, it'd be this issue number 243. I love John Byrne's take on Galactus when he redefined that Jack Kirby, Stan Lee creation and made it his own. I finally identified with that character. Before, Kirby made it too symbolistic or something. It was just too cosmic and too out there for me. But John Byrne brought some humanity to him. Look at that face. You can almost feel what his voice would have sounded like. And you've got the guest stars, Captain America, Thor right there, Doctor Strange flying in there with the Fantastic Four. This one works on all levels. I love this white, simplistic background. This is how you do a white background. I love it, and I'm happy to choose it as my S tier winner. Well, thank you for joining me tonight. That was a lot of fun. 61 of the greatest Fantastic Four covers of all time. Let me know what your favorite was, where you disagreed with me, what other titles, runs, characters, writers, artists you want me to rank. Thanks for joining me, and have a great night.